Okay, guys, good afternoon. Steve again. Today we're going to be looking at the sales reporting facilities in Prima. There's various ways that you guys can go about running your sales reports in Prima. Different bits of data that you can extract from the system. And I'm basically going to point you guys in the right direction to look for certain things. I'll be going through the bits as we see it that come across commonly from customer questions, and also be giving you some hints, hopefully, that you may or may not know, but certainly on the analysis side, I'll hopefully give you some new skills that you can go away and create some meaningful reports yourselves. Okay, so the way it works in Prima, from a reporting perspective, is you've got two areas. You've got sales orders, so that's authorized sales order data, and you've got invoiced data. Okay, so different reports in the system will be looking at different things. So it's important to know that when you're loading one of these reports, the information that you guys would expect to see in there. Okay, so if you've not used the reports before, I know I've had questions in the past where customers have been perhaps confused where the data is coming from. So I'll give you some information around where the information is coming from, and when you go away and make your own reports as such, hopefully you have a better understanding. And if you still need to answer some questions answered, then obviously we can set up a session around that. Okay, so I just want to talk initially kind of in its most basic form, just extracting some sales data out of Prima. Okay, so what I would suggest the way you can do that is just via the sales orders or the sales order lines, and just taking a quick, I suppose, screen grab of that information. Okay, so I've got my dashboard set up here as an example, and I'm just going to go into my orders. Okay, so I'm looking at my authorized sales orders here. Okay, and essentially you've got a very quick way of getting that information out of Prima. So I just want to, in its most basic form of reporting, I guess, take that information elsewhere and use it in Excel. Okay, so just running back through that again, I'll just go from the dashboard just straight into my screen, and here's my kind of sales order information. So if I want to take that information out of Prima, the quickest way you can do that is simply, you've got the filters of the information, and then it's simply a right click and export the data. Okay, and I've got it set that I can't export that information, so that's so that's for, let's have a look. I'll go into my quotes. So I can right click and export the data, and whatever's in the grid at that time, I would essentially get an export of those quote lines or sales order lines, whatever they may be. Okay, at that point you can save that information, or you can choose to export it to Excel. Okay, at this point, I know some of our customers might mention the fact that on the previous version there was an export to Excel from the right click. That's definitely been logged by the team, and it's currently on the enhancement list to go back in. I don't have a date as such on there, but it's certainly there. The functionality essentially is the same. So when you click on export to Excel, it will prompt you to save a record, and then you would just give it a name. And then save to the relevant location, and then you can access that at any point. You need to distribute it to one of the members of your team, or you just need a copy for yourselves. Okay. Now, I said that's in its most basic form. What we have some customers do is, if I go back to this sales order lookup, you can set kind of saved search filters for the particular screen that you're in. Okay. So, as an example here, if I look at my personalized settings, if I right click on here, I've got a customer in this database called KPMG. If I choose KPMG, that will bring me back, and I search again, that will update the filters, bring me back all KPMG's orders, and I can then right click and export or print the data if you needed it. Just a quick list of what that customer's ordered over a given period of time. Yeah. So from this screen, you can make those settings. There isn't a limit as such as to how many of these saved filters you can have. Some of our customers would tend to have a couple. So I've got one that's just all my orders as an example, and I've got one that's my KPMG customer, because I just want to get a quick list off of those order lines. Okay. What you can also see from this screen, if you may or may not have used it before, is I'm looking at header level on these orders here. So what I see is my total retail price, my total cost, my total profit, and my overall margin for this particular sales order. I can look at line data as well for that particular set of search filters. So if I tap the lines tab, search, and then I would have the opportunity at that point to export the line data in the same way. So it's a really quick way to get information out the system. We have a few customers that would use that with the save settings and have that information just to hand whenever they need to take a copy of it for a particular customer. And the same goes for the invoicing module as well. So if I need to take a set of invoice lines against the customer, I can look at KPMG's invoices, and I can look at their invoice lines over whatever the given period is, and I can right click and export those. So if I got that message before that said I couldn't export it, that's to do with the permissions on the certain screens. In the admin area, you can set basically that a user can or cannot export data from a particular screen. Okay, so just at a basic level, that's kind of extracting information from Prima. Just bear in mind, when you run the export, what it exports is based on whatever the search criteria are, not what you've got left in the grid, because you do have the functionality in here to kind of remove records and things in the grid and update the grid. But when you actually run the export, it would ignore that and just essentially export what the search criteria are. So that's just something to bear in mind if you're taking the information out of Prima. Okay, so that's a common usage for the grids, and it's a quick way of getting information. Doesn't, however, I guess, give you any kind of analysis of the data. It just tells you like discrete codes and quantities and values and stuff. So the other area you've got is your reporting area. Okay, and we'll go on to that in a second. I just wanted to show you something that's coming new. We're running a version ahead of you guys at the moment, so I just wanted to show you something that's coming on here. So if I just find a particular product code, so if I take this 00215X and I go into the sales order, so just double click through, what you've got now on the new version is, and this is the start of bringing reporting power essentially right to the sales order, and in time it's going to be into the company record as well. Via the links within the sales order line, you've now got this sales and purchase information. Okay, so when you move on to the next update, which is a week or two away, if I go into the sales and purchase information, I'm basically seeing what my kind of sales are and purchases of that product over a period of time. So at the moment it's related to kind of total usage of that product. So what's the kind of selling movements and purchasing movements of that line, and the plan and what's happening is it's going to be broken down even further to customer level and product level. So this graphical representation and quick information like this is very much becoming a part of the company and the sales process. So I just wanted to give you a little update on that because that's kind of brand new in the system. Okay. So I'm going to go into the reporting module now and just explain a little bit around the reporting module and what you can get out of it essentially from a sales point of view. If I go into reports, I've got my saved settings, if you like, for my own reports, and I'll come back to those in a second. So if I set it back to standard and I just hit enter and just return the list of spreadsheet reports. Okay, so the way it works in Prima from a reporting point of view in the reports module is you've got three types of reports. Spreadsheets are kind of list type reports, bringing together invoice line data, sales data, and giving you the opportunity to set up and customize those and just have a list that you can extract. Analysis type are pivot type reports, so bringing together invoices over a period and allowing you to break down that data via various values in terms of product groups, customers, sales reps, by month, for example, and we'll come on to those. And then you've got the report type. So customers who've moved from the previous version of Prima will be familiar with the report type. These are, I suppose, PDF reports that you can just access, put in a criteria, and it just punches out a defined layout of a report onto a PDF, and then you can just present that to whoever you need to in the company. Okay, so I'll start in the spreadsheet section, and then we'll move through. Okay, so as a first pass, I mean, everyone will probably be using the sales dashboard report. So I'm just gonna open that. Okay, so the way the sales dashboard report works is it's essentially designed to give the user a quick view of what's going on at a particular time. Okay, so you can make that larger there, and essentially all the user needs to do is open the report, define a criteria. So I'm showing last month's sales orders, and I've not got any further filters than that. So I can save it a company in here, I can save an account manager in here, And if you use business groups in Prima, which I know some of our customers do, then you can use the business group in here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to look at this dashboard and just show you bring to your attention some of the points around it. So if just on a quick one on that, if you do use business groups in Prima, that it's basically set in the company header level, and you would use it to say solicitors, educational, doctors' surgeries, for example, and then you'll be able to build up a picture over time of what those type of customers buy from you, and you can obviously make your marketing collateral accordingly for that. So if I go back to the spreadsheet, so I set a criteria in there in terms of the date. So what happens is on the sales dashboard, it always looks at today's figures, so what's happening today, and then it basically plays that off against whatever you set in the criteria. So the majority of our customers would have a setup such as this. It's not to say that you have to do this, but this is what I've seen in most cases. So they would look at this month or this week versus today. Okay, so I can just update the report. So no orders have gone on today, and for the month, it's a bit pathetic. 14.9%, and I've done 1,100. Okay, so you just essentially, it's designed to be very quick to use. It works on authorized sales orders. Okay, so this would be used as a guide pretty much for either the business owner or a rep if they were looking to know how they were performing over a period of time. Okay. Obviously, this is authorized sales orders, so you have to bear in mind the way Prima works in terms of its cost pricing and such, that only when you dispatch the goods that Prima writes the true cost back to the order. So whatever costs on the order at that time, you don't take that as sacred as what's in here. It will be based on the invoice value, but you would see that in here as well. So when you look at the criteria I've set for this month, I'm looking at my orders today, my orders for the month, invoices for the day, and invoices for the month. Okay. Now, depending on how you run your invoicing, whatever company is listening, you'll see the values in there. So if you do a monthly invoice run, then I guess that would stay low for the month. Okay. So you got some header figures there, number of orders, number of lines, and then any reps that have been putting orders on within that given period. Okay. So on the back of that, you've got some information around the kind of top product groups that have been selling and the bottom classifications. To be honest, I think bottom classifications, in my opinion, doesn't really mean anything. But if you guys have got suggestions of what would be better in its place, then we can look to kind of shoehorn some bits out and put more meaningful boxes in there. But yeah, what we're looking at is at a glance figures. Okay, so all the information that you see on that dashboard is essentially driven by by the worksheets within that spreadsheet. So you've got the line detail, the header detail, total values, your classifications, and you can flick through if you want a kind of full view of those things. One thing that we did add quite recently to there was the credited lines. So for whatever the given period is that you've defined, you'd put you can see your credits in there. So a lot of our customers would want to know at a glance what kind of credits we're issuing and to who. So that's, again, quick visibility of that, and then you've got a total for the period at the bottom. Okay, so that's really you not having to do any work as such. That's just bringing information to your sales order, information to your attention, and you can access that at any point. So what we see is we've got customers that would have multiple versions of this. So essentially the way the reports work, if I do a save as and I say this is Steve's dashboard, when I click OK, that will create another copy of the dashboard, and then I can set, when I go back in, my saved settings is I want to look at the custom copies, and the custom copies will include Steve's sales dashboard. So that might be relating to if I've changed the criteria to look at the particular rep of myself, I can have a copy for me. And I do see that with our customers, the sales reps, Dave, Bob, Jane, whoever they may be, there'll be a separate report in the custom list for each one of those reps. Okay. So just bear in mind when you use the save as function as well, as it stands at the moment, Prima may do an update to the standard version of the report. So one that essentially hasn't been customized, the main default that you would always use as the start point. Any kind of development that happens would happen against the standard version. So it's not often, but it may be the case if we add a big new feature to the report, then it would be the case that you may have to just recreate the sales report from the standard. But that's just some, I guess, some information for you guys. So like you saw in the export before, because it uses the same report engine, you've still got the facility here to export those lines to Excel should you need to. Some of our customers prefer to work in Excel, so you can take that information in there. And the edit layout, I'll show you that in a sec, but it's basically an opportunity for you to customize the columns. For example, we put some conditional formatting in here to show the credits as red. It's really giving you the opportunity to play around with the aesthetics, choose which columns you want to return and don't want to return. Most of our customers don't use it, but the facility is there. So I'll show you examples of that in a second. Okay, so on the sales order side, we've also got a recent one in here, and I don't know if anyone saw it in the release notes. One called Sales Orders with Dispatch Information. This was on the back of customer requests whereby they had to give a report to their big clients that had multiple locations to say, here's an update on the order in terms of its status, where's it going, and what are the values, and when was it dispatched. So if you look into this report, you will see company information, sales order IDs, order status, PO numbers, order contacts, and then you've got some order line data in here. So, and it'll tell you what delivery note numbers it's been on, when it's been dispatched, how many have been dispatched. Apologies, I just clicked the button by mistake. And it will give you that information. So it may be something that you need to provide to a particular customer. So as you can see, you've got filters in here to filter it by a particular cost center. You can filter it by the product groups. Should be able to filter it by the locations and the postcodes in here. So you could create essentially a custom copy here for a particular account and save the criteria. So in the criteria of this report, I've got a company record that I can store in here. So show me the orders with the dispatch information for KPMG for last month, and that could be a saved report. So each month or each week I can send them that list telling them what order lines are still in the system and what's been delivered over that period of time. So quite handy, certainly for the large customers where you've got multiple locations against them. you've got a similar report in here for invoice lines. I'm just going to come back to that one because I'm going to go into the standard invoice lines report in here. So from authorized sales orders, we go into invoice line information. Okay, so this invoice lines report, I would say, is used quite heavily by our customers, on the basis that they are again providing for particular customers a list of invoice lines over a given period. So it may be the case that you need to provide it via a particular cost center or a particular delivery location, or a breakdown by product. So over time, we've built up these requirements from our customer base, and you can essentially use the tabs at the bottom to extract that data in the way that the tab allows. So you've got cost center breakdowns in here, product breakdowns over a period of time, location breakdowns over a period of time, and you would just extract that data as you need to and perhaps communicate that to your customer. Again, you've got your criteria tab where you put your invoices in. So if I look at, let's look at the fixed period of this year, get a few more invoice lines on there. Where's this year? There we go. So every time you change the criteria, when I go back to the report, it'll just update. And then I've got all my invoice lines on here. If I scroll across on the invoice lines tab, it will give me some totals. And we've done the conditional formatting. So if I want to sort it, credits will show in here as well. So you may want to present the customer each month with a list of credits, or you just may want to have it as your reference point for a particular customer. You can save a custom copy of this report for a particular customer and essentially have the credits saved. Okay, so I was talking before about taking columns and things out of the report, so you're just left with some information. As you can see in here, if I scroll across, I don't necessarily want to be sending my costing over to my customer. I might want to give them the report of the line data, but I certainly don't want to be sending them the cost information. So that's where the edit layout function comes into play, and you can go into your edit layout. If I just click on here, you'll get a kind of Excel form that pops up. It's just gone onto my second screen. I'll just bring it back across here. Spare me a sec. Okay, so I can essentially bring across this editing tool, and I can, if I want to remove a column such as the cost price, I can scroll across. Let me just maximize this. If I scroll across and I can find the relevant column, I can right click and delete the column. So if I don't want them to see the costs, which I obviously wouldn't, I can delete that, and when I'm happy with the columns that are left in there, when I click the close icon at the top, it will say, do you want to save those changes, and you just click OK. Okay. Once you've got the columns left in the report as you want them, at that point you would use the save as function here, and then you can call it invoice lines KPMG as we're using that example. So again, I would create a custom copy of the KPMG report, and that's essentially how the spreadsheets work. There's a list of sheets that you can affect in terms of the results that come back in terms of the criteria and the filters, but it will return the data in list format, and that's fine in certain circumstances. So it would be a case of just playing around with the report, doing a save as, creating a custom copy, and then perhaps giving us some feedback on what you've got, or if you've got stuck trying to edit the layouts or anything, you can let us know. But you can't break the report as such. If you save as and create a custom copy, the standard one will still be there, and we can just refer back to the standard if you've deleted too many columns, or you're not happy with what the outcome is. Okay, so that's it. Essentially, you have sales order data, invoice line data with some credits, and that's presented in a list, and that's essentially how the spreadsheets work. Obviously, you've got things like the back orders and things in there, but we're looking on the sales side today. So I just want to move across now to what's called the analysis type. Anyone who's used to using kind of pivot tables and stuff in Excel will, I guess, be familiar with the way the analysis reports work. If you've not had that kind of experience before in terms of the reporting, then it's just the case of pointing you in the right direction of what's actually happening with the data here. So for your benefit, in the analysis type, you essentially have two reports in here. You've got one called Invoice Sales Analysis and the chart version of that. Now, I wouldn't get started with the chart side of things. The real report that we want to use in this instance is the Invoice Sales Analysis. Okay, so I'm just gonna open this now, and to give you information about what we were talking before about what information is coming back. Okay, so the Invoice Sales Analysis is looking at posted invoice and credit data over whatever the given period of time is that you define in here, yeah? Okay, so when I open this report, if I just open it, okay, so it may look a bit alien, I suppose, to start with if you've not seen this type of report before, but once you actually understand the mechanics of it and what's happening, then it's actually pretty straightforward to use. Okay, so the way it works is this large area of the screen here is your results. Okay, and it's based on the bits of data that you want to bring into the report. Okay, so as an example, when you first look at the standard version of the invoice sales analysis, what it's looking at is in the row data my account code and my company name of your accounts in Prima. Okay, on the column data, so going across the page, it's saying let's have a month by month view of that information, and then in the same way across the page, show me the measures. Now, measures in the report engine perspective here are your net, your margin, your profit. If you're looking at usage reports, it's quantities. Okay, so it's really a case of you just knowing where to kind of pull the information to display in a format that you want to see. Okay, so it starts in this month by month view. Okay, and for example, if I want to see month by month the net alongside each other, and then I want to see the margin alongside each other, it would be a case of dragging the measures onto the rows, and then I get a month by month view of net and a month by month view of margin. So it's much easier to see immediately what the change is over that period of time. Okay, I can bring in, we were talking about the measures, so the measures go into this data area here, and I might want to see what cash profit or landed profit, as you may know it in Prima. I can click and drag that into the data area, and immediately I will see the profit figures in here. Okay, so I'm starting to build a picture of the customer spend profile month by month. Okay, it's not product specific at the moment, it's just based on spend and margin figures here. So I can do things like immediately I can say, right, okay, well, Eon don't really spend with us, so I want to put the top spending customers, I want those to come first. Okay, so I can, if I right click on the account code here, I've got a sort option, and in the same way that you can do it in Excel, if I right click and then go to more sort options, I can show it descending, and the field that I'm going to use is the net. So I want to make it descending via the net. So my top spending customers immediately come to the top of this report. So as I thought, KPMG are top of the list. And I've got a month by month view then straight away of the margin, the profit on that account, and my net. And just coming back to, just to reiterate the point, this is posted invoice and credit data, so it's right as per Prima, as per you've posted those invoices and credits. So this is essentially final in terms of Prima's reporting. Yeah. So if you were looking, and I've got an example, and I'll show you in a sec. If you were looking to kind of pay commissions for your sales reps, for example, you will be doing it based on the values in the posted invoice and credit values, basically, rather than looking at that sales dashboard and where you've not written back the true costs, etc. Okay, so just coming back to the report, I've got just basic spend information, and I can see straight away I'm starting to see some gaps in my what I believe to be my top customer account. So that it seems like Wessex Water have had a break for 3 months and they didn't spend anything with us. So there's a conversation to be had there about what's happening, but we've seemed to have got them back from December to March. Okay, so just those two drags of the field and sorting it completely gives you a picture of who your top customers are, whereas you might have believed they were a particular set of accounts. The system's now showing you these are your top accounts. And the way the report works to drag further fields in, it's just a case of using what's called the attributes in here. So the attributes are the kind of values that you can measure against that is linked to the sale or the customer and the information against that customer and the sale. So I've got everything from account code through to cost center information, whether the sale was on the customer's contract or not, invoice descriptions by month, by product nominals, orders by source. So how do we receive our orders? So for if I bring the source into here, I'll get a breakdown of, here's my breakdown of KPMG's orders, how they place their orders, so I can see straight away majority of the orders are coming through as not assigned. What does that mean? It means that we're not reporting on it properly and we don't know where the orders are coming from. So it would give you an opportunity to obviously amend that in the company record, but also then get a better understanding straight away of how they're actually processing their orders. So these fields here would just be dragged into the relevant column, and it, as you can see, it immediately displays on the report. And as easy as you took them in, you can drag them out. So if you click and drag, you'll see that little X, and you just take it out of the report straight away. Okay, so you can build the report however you want once you've got the hang of dragging and dropping these attributes, if you like, into the report. Then you can build the report to suit. Okay, so you can go right down to stock code level here. So you really can go quite in depth on the customers. Okay, so I just want to show you some examples of what done and what we've seen with customers in terms of setting up the reports. In the same way that you did with the spreadsheet type report, if you arrive at a point where you're happy with a particular report, so as an example, this would be fine. I want to see my net, my margin or my profit month by month for customers. I can just come onto the Save As here, click on Save As, and then create a custom copy of that report, and that will sit in my custom copy list, and I can access that at any point. Okay, so you really can build these reports quickly and get some meaningful data out of there. So as an example, I'm just gonna show you some of the ones that we've created in here, and it really takes minutes to set them up. Okay, so if I go into my custom copy and have a look at what we've got set custom, I'm going to look at let's look at this one, customer performance by month. Let's see what we've got in here. Okay, so if I look at customer performance by month, what I've got in here is I've got a by month view of what our customers are spending in the relevant product groups. So all I've done is, as an example, I've put from the attributes, I've dragged my company name into here. I've dragged the product classification into here, and my measures are going across the page. So I'm looking at net margin and profit by product group, okay, for a particular customer. Once you've got a field in here and you want to have quick access to flick between particular customers, you can use a feature in here which is really handy called quick filter. So any of the fields in the attributes that you want to have as a kind of saved field list down the side, as you can see here, so I can quickly change between accounts. I can right click and you get this option to show quick filter, and then that will be down the side, and then you basically just pick the account that you want and it will return the information straight away. So as an example, if I take this account, just get rid of that one, I've got a picture of Bengio Primary School, and that's their spend profile with me on an invoice basis for whatever the given period is in the criteria. So at the far end you'll have totals as well. Just while I'm looking at those totals, it's not looking good for me because the way it shows on the report at the moment, those brackets reference a minus. So it's showing I've got minus £3,294 profit on that account. So something's not right there. Okay, and I can see it here. So in May I posted a big loss, and that's gonna, as you're in there, you might want to see a bit more information about that. So what you can do is, if you look at a figure and you see, hang on, something's not right there, you can right click and you get the option to view the underlying data, and it will take you through and show you essentially the invoice or credit data that you've got on there, so you can quickly identify what it was that's causing that blip in the figures. Okay, so all I've done here, there are opportunities to amend the kind of fonts and the sizing of the fonts, and that's just done through this format tab here. So I've changed the colour slightly and things, but I mean that's just jazzing it up a little bit. The real important thing is pulling the data across, and it literally is a case of clicking and dragging into the relevant area to get that information. So just to reiterate, the net, the margin, profit, quantity, for example, they go into this data area. So you drag those, and again, if you don't want to show any of those, you just pull that information out. Okay. So that's an example, looking at it by customer. I can pick a customer and showing like a gap analysis, basically, if you like, of the product groups. I could go steps down if I wanted to. So I've got the group and the subgroup, so the kind of boss level classifications, if you like. I could drop those into the report as well, and I get an immediate profile of that customer spend right down to the subgroup. And then, should you need to, you can go down to stock code if you wanted to. So as you can see, very quickly you can build up a report. And all that would happen is, if you say, right, I want the standard report to just show the product classification, but I want a drill down version of it as well. Again, it's just a copy of save as drill down report, and then you would have the drill down report saved in your custom list. If you don't want the report anymore, you can just click delete layout. Okay. So I'm just going to close out that one and just show you some other examples of what we've got in here. So rep report. So I'd say this is used quite commonly by our customers, or set up similar to this. So show me how our reps are performing month on month. I've got to pay commissions. We've got a sales meeting coming up. I need to know what's been invoiced over a given period of time. What I've got here, I think in this cards area, I can choose to show the columns and the rows again. So I'm looking at account manager. So that's all I've got in here, just rep and the values. So I've got in the cards area, I've got my data. So I'm profit. So I might want to drag cost into there. So what costs I'm looking at? So I can drag the cost in there. Okay. So again, when I'm happy with the report, if you're making changes to an existing report and you're happy with that and you don't want to create another one, just use the save option. Okay. But if you do want to make a separate report, then you would use the save as. Okay. The criteria in here, you've got a customer level criteria, and then you've got your date range. So I've not got a date range set in here, so it's just looking at all the invoices over a given period of time. Well, since there was invoice information in this database. Okay. So you might say, well, whenever I do an analysis report, or for this particular analysis report, I just want to look at this year's figures, or specify an inclusive range. You can save the criteria against that report, and then when you come back, you just do a save against that report. Okay. Other examples of the analysis report being used that are popular, usage report. So that's just giving you an information that there's quite a lot of data in here. So by customer, show me what products they've bought over a given period of time. So I've got stock code, I've got the description. This column here is currently on contract. So if I'm doing a 12-month review of that customer and I want to link that to what I'm going to do with updating them with some new contract prices, I might find in their top 10 items, only 2 of them are actually on the current contract, so I might want to revise that. So you'll just have that information to hand. So I'm looking here at net values and quantity versus the customer and the product codes. So again, if I get rid of all of those and put that KPMG, because I know they've got some sales data in here, look at KPMG, look at my product codes, descriptions, what are the top selling items over a period of time, and here are the net values as well. So all I'm doing is using that same report to just drag the relevant fields into my rows and my columns to show that information. Again, I started with that invoice sales analysis, a few attributes added to the rows, and I've now got a meaningful usage report that I can apply to any customer. So it's really a case of just repeating that process. You've got all the data in there, and you would just want to know certain things that I can't say exactly what's relevant for one customer might be not relevant for another. So I don't know exactly the data that you want to get out of it, but as you can see, you've got a very detailed picture by going down to kind of product code level of the information that you can get out of it here. So that would be the analysis type. If you need to produce a copy of it, so you want to take this information out and put it into Excel, then you can just use the export to function here, or you can, if you've saved it in a certain way, you've got a print option here as well, in the print preview. So if it, just bear in mind on print, I'm a little bit kind of not advising people to run a print on the analysis type, on the basis that kind of one drag of a field into this report can take the report to a huge size. Especially if you're bringing months or years or information like that into the report, it'll be going across the page quite a lot, so you'd end up with lots of pages. The usage report would be fine to print because you've just got a few columns, but that's just something to bear in mind. Okay. So they're the analysis type, and what I advise is you guys go ahead and play around with it, and then give us some feedback if you're struggling with anything on that. But they're pretty straightforward to use once you know the kind of concept and what's happening in terms of dragging it into the certain areas. Okay. So then finally on the sales side, you have these, as I said before, you have these report type. So if I look at the standard and then look at the report type, these are just reports that you would go into and just print off. You define a date range and print the report off for a given period of time, and it will present you with some information on there. So as an example, if I go into the salesperson profitability summary, I don't know what the date criteria is on this, so it's just taking a... So these are, like I said, they're just PDF reports. You can't amend any of the figures or anything that's coming in here. You're just taking this information from the system, and it's just punching out a report that you may want to print off for a sales meeting, for example, or an email to one of your colleagues. Yeah, so it's just set a date criteria, and then it just brings up the information on this. So they all work in the same way. It's just a date criteria, and then the values will come back. So we've got the based on invoiced values. So if I look at this report, it would be based on invoice values. So you would just go into those and just load them as you need to. Okay. What's coming in it might not be the next version, but certainly 2 or 3 down the line, if you like. So a couple of months, I would say, is the ability that you'll have through the admin to schedule the release of these reports. So you might want to have a regular weekly sales report, or you might want to schedule the dashboard to email it to a customer, not to a customer, to one of the sales reps at the end of the day to give them a total of the figures. Through the admin, you'll be able to set up some schedule routines, and essentially the system will be emailing these or printing it, sending it to the printer if that's what you want it to do, on a particular day at a particular time a report that's got a certain date range set in your criteria. So maybe a custom report that you've set up and you want that to go to your reps, then you'll be able to put in the email addresses that it's going to and send that. So it'd be really helpful, rather than you kind of having to go and, I suppose, find that information at the moment and manually send it. You do it once as a rule, and then the system will be taking care of that on a monthly basis or weekly basis, whatever the period would be. So it's quite an exciting thing, and make the reporting functionality in Prima much more efficient, I would say, because we tend to have a lot of customers that would not want to get involved in it as such. They just want the system to fire out some figures. So if you have to set it up once and then the system does it going forward, then that would be a preferable thing. So from a sales point of view, just coming back to the reports as a whole, if it's just the case that you want a quick information out of the system, then you can use your exports from the grids. Alternatively, you can use your sales dashboard or the sales dashboard with the dispatch information from the spreadsheet types. If you need to drill down further into the reports, then you've got your analysis tools, and hopefully I've shown you a few features of those analysis tools and shown you that it's pretty simple to change the look and immediately the data that's coming back on those reports, saving as to create a custom copy, and then having that reference point in the list here. So I've got my saved settings as an example here, so whenever I come back to my reports area, my saved settings are such that if I come in and hit enter, it will, it's because I got the report open. If I come into the screen and hit enter, it will show me all my custom reports in the, I've got the report tab set there, so it's not doing that. So I've got custom reports that are spreadsheet type, and then I've got custom reports. I might have custom reports that are all. So these are the reports that I've generated. So set it up so you see in the relevant reports that you want, and then my advice is just have a play around in inverted commas with the analysis type and just see what you're ending up with in a report. And then if you have any questions on it, of course you can give us a call, but all the information's there from an invoice and credit point of view, so it would just be a case of you guys using it and just extracting some meaningful reports for your business. So that's pretty much it from me today. I'm gonna hang around as always for a few minutes, and we'll be answering some questions. So I don't know if you guys have got anything you need to put to myself and the guys. We'll certainly be here, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. I think Ollie's going to send out the poll of what we are looking to cover next week. So if you're on our Twitter, if you've signed up to our Twitter account, then you'll see a tweet coming out with the information of what the topics are to choose from, and then whichever one wins based on our customer votes is the thing that we'll do next week. We very much want to make it relevant to what our customers want, so the feedback's been really good so far. Okay, so that's it for me, and I'll speak to you guys next week. Okay, cheers.